Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
Oh, they're going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still such up. He's up to second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the VWSC NRAS series. We have flown our way over to Detroit and Belle Isle, and this is surely going to be quite an exciting race. Two classes, four separate races in terms of the Pro and the AMS, and both the Hypercar and the GT3s. Belle Isle surely serving up a fantastic race. My name is Dareth Acker, joined alongside once again by James Parford in the commentary booth, pushing all the buttons, making the broadcast look wonderful. And James, we had Laguna Seca last time out. That was quite something. Belle Isle, not really going to be any different, I don't think.
I love the terminology of that was quite something. It was more than something. Both of us come out of here like, what have we just literally witnessed from these guys in this series? It was insane. And I didn't end up going to sleep for about an hour and a half after I turned off the broadcast of my computer. I was just so hyped for what we saw. It was literally one of the best ever races I've broadcasted on. It was incredible. So I'm hoping Belle Isle will be the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think I'd slept until about 6 a.m. UK time, and the sun was up by then, so that was very disconcerting. But hopefully we'll get more of the same. Hopefully some fantastic racing action, and I can't see why not. Of course, we've been to Long Beach, haven't we, in the calendar? But here at Belle Isle, the walls are a little bit further away. The track's a little bit wider, so, you know, drivers may be a little bit more inclined to go for those moves.
Yeah, hopefully. My fear is they go for moves and ended up in the wall. That's the fear, and I think it's one of them things that we hope won't happen, but I got a funny feeling when we talk to Ross Smith in a minute, it just might happen. So, but let's have a look at the track here for today.
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting one, Belle Isle. Of course, I don't believe they're using this in IndyCar anymore. They're moving downtown, but still, of course, in R-Factor 2. This wonderful track. Orange Zone, remember, incidents through that part of the racetrack will be piloted, or sorry, will be stewarded quite more harshly. You're looking at turn 3 down there, the sharp 90-degree right-hander. We're going to see a lot of action down there, I'm sure, but then we get through the rest of the track around the fountain. Many opportunities, I think, for some incident, many opportunities for overtaking. And we've seen, of course, haven't we, James, all the way through the schedule so far this season, how we've had, you know, a street track, a bit of a wider track. You look at Long Beach, you look at Daytona that we've had. Back at Detroit, it's going to be tighter, but then we go straight back to Watkins Glen in about 4 weeks' time, and it's going to be wider again.
Yeah. I think they've gone for that sort of kind of calendar, haven't they? It's more of a dedicated circuit to a street circuit to a dedicated circuit to a street circuit, you know, and so on and so forth. The last couple are going to be interesting. Glen, you know, next time out on the 27th of June, everybody knows Watkins Glen. We know Watkins Glen like the back of our hand. You know, it's one of them circuits they should be able to race on. You know, a couple of others, Mosport might be a little bit tricky. Road America will be okay. VIR, again, depending on how they cope with the snake and the back end of that circuit. Indianapolis, shame it's not the oval, but they are doing the road, which is just, I really don't like it. That's a mere circuit for me. And then Road Atlanta, which could be quite a tight one, but then we see that in Petit Le Mans and stuff like that. So they might be okay. They might be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but here's the strategy, and this is really where it's going to be important. We think one-stop strategy for these GT cars, and the medium tyres should be able to last. I mean, seems pretty straightforward. We've had a couple of two-stops so far this season, but for the GTs tonight at Detroit, one stop should get them to the end. In the hypercars, it's a bit of a different story. Two stops are going to get them to the end, something around the 40-minute mark, then the 20-minute mark to get to the end. Hopefully no splashes and dashes from anybody before we get to the end of the race. But that brings us neatly onto the challenges here at Detroit, because you've got to keep the rears cool, pick passes perfectly, because at a track like Detroit, you can really find yourself in a lot of trouble. If you go for that move a little bit too ambitiously, you're going to find yourself slap banging a wall.
Yeah, they really have to be careful. That's one of the things they are going to have to try and cope with and be very careful. But let's have a quick rundown through the standings before we get just enough time to chat to Mr. Ross Smith.
And there are a few standings, aren't there? But we'll look at the first one. Hypercar
We'll go as quick as we
Dan
can.
Kirby leading the race. Alec King and Mike Bell top 3, with Brian Hall and Franco Alvarez in the top 5. Kesby, Rice, Vaser and Don Hunter are the other drivers. The AM category has George Angelides on top, with Jerry Chen and Scar Pope in tow. Wayne Galvin, Non Graf, good results last time out there in the hunt, with Jules Lalonde, Lanny Hall as well in that top 7. A few drivers below not turning up the last couple of rounds. We then jump our way across to what is the GT Pro standings, and there's quite a few drivers, but the leader is Theo Santos still, with JT Tammy and Eduardo Beninca in P2 and P3. Michael Locke, and that's Matthew Robertson in the top 5. Good results from Johnny Gutierrez, puts him up to P7, as Dan Kirby, who of course did that one race, now stepping further down a little. Ross Smith, of course, still up in P12, with others like Paul Ibbotson down in P14. One more to go through in terms of the drivers is the GT3 AMS, and it's Alan Holden leading the way. Stephen Miller and Alexander McQuarrie close in tow. James Boders is ahead of Josh McGlinski, who hasn't been here for a couple of weeks. Sean Kelly and Ryan Reyes are just in behind as well, and that wraps us up for the drivers' standings. But in the team standings, it's Flying Kiwi Racing who lead the way by a comfortable margin ahead of the Hall brothers and Champion Motorsports. PHO and Red Weasel in the top 5. Belly Functional, Vice, Shade Tree and CMS GT3 in the top 9. So, James, that was a quick run through all those standings, and we have Ross Smith in.
Yeah, we do. We've got Mr. Smith in the booth. We'll have a quick chat with him. He's only got about a minute left. Mr. Smith, how are you?
Good. How are you, gentlemen?
I'm very well. I believe Daryl's very well as well. Tell us, how's your race going to go today?
I think for me, it's just going to be attrition is my friend, because I have unfortunately been quite busy between work, both in real life and on the mods. So I haven't had hardly any time to be out here. In fact, qualifying was basically my entire practice session. So yeah, it's just going to be kind of I'm going to be spectator probably more than I'm involved with any sort of fights or anything. But you know, we'll have fun. I like this track. It's basically like if Adelaide and Long Beach had a baby, it kind of turns into the roads of Detroit. But you know, it's got a lot of interesting stuff. Like Matthew mentioned before, kind of like in the pre-broadcast, it's got a lot to offer in terms of mixing up action, and it's very tight, and you're going to see the traffic really come into play here. It's really going to just make for a lot of excitement, especially in that section between sectors 2 and 3, where it really tightens up, gets very back and forth, and yeah, it's good. It's going to be fun. You guys will have a blast.
Are you going to survive?
Well, that's the goal. So yeah, I'd like to say so. I mean, we've been pretty consistent there in terms of just being able to hang on. So I think we can do it. We got a minute to figure it out.
No, mate. Well, you let you go. Look, we're a bit trying to come through all of them cards and stand-ins. We'll let you go, buddy. Have a good one, and we'll run through the grid.
All right. Thanks so much, guys, and good luck. And thank you for everything that you do at JPB.
No worries, man. Take care.
He's a lovely man, isn't he, Ross Smith? Shame he's starting so far back in the order, though. We'll have to see what he can do. You'll notice, looking at the grid, Alec King, Dan Kirby, they're neither of them are on pole. It's Franco Alvarez who leads the way, and he is followed by those two drivers. Jerry Chen is in P5 just behind Mike Bell. Wayne Galvin, Adrian Rice and Brian Hall round out your top 8. There's not too many cars on the grid, but the top 10 are rounded out by Norgraf and Gilles Lalonde. Lanny Hall and Eduardo Beninca are in the top 12. Beninca, the lead GT3 car. We look further back to the 7th and 8th rows, and it's Max Sontenlap and Eugene Mazur, JT Towey, and Alan Holden leading those GT3 AMs, starting all the way up in the lofty heights of P16. Matthew Overton, about in the second half of the grid now, just ahead of William Schruting, I think that says, Michael Locke and Paul Ibbotson, hoping to recover after his incident that we saw back at Laguna Seca last time out. Eric Jacobs and Vinicius Goncalves in the top 22. Oliver Day, Sean Kelly round out the top 24. Further back to see Carl Struhl and Stephen Miller. I almost said Stephen Miller Lee there, just Stephen Miller back in P26 with David Anderson and, of course, Ross Smith in 28th. Only one more slide to show, and that's because we've got Stacey Scotts, Tom Nacella, and Michael Mudge running up the 31 drivers. I mean, James, I think we're going to have to strap ourselves in, really. 31 cars around Detroit. This is going to be exciting, thrilling, dramatic, any kind of expletive. What's the word I'm looking for? Superlative. There we go. Superlative you want to throw in.
Yeah, I think that's what we are expecting. It looks like we've just had a server reset. I'm probably guessing that is due to the fact that somebody was not able to get into the server. So we have just got that. I presume that is what is taking place at this moment in time. Nathaniel Maffei, good evening to you. Jola, go LMGT3s. Let's see how they get on. Keo, go Ross Team Sentinel Racing Tech. Thanks for the support. And go Stacey and Oliver, says Nathaniel there. So yeah, great support for your favourite drivers. Let us know who you think's going to win, who are your favourite drivers, and we'll see what we can do until we can get them on the screen for you. But I think, although there's 31, there's only 10 hypercars. Okay, so my theory is, if them 10 can get through the 21 GT3s without any issues, we should be in for a good one. That's it.
Easy to say in theory, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. That was my theory. I don't know.
Let's see if it comes through.
No, it probably isn't, mate. It's probably going to be carnage or something, and it's going to kick off big style all the way through the field, and it's going to go and hit the fan, for a better word.
I mean, casting my back to Laguna Seca, we were talking about how it might be difficult for the hypercars to get through. The first time that we watched Alec King, who is the driver that we're trying to get back into this session, by the way, Alec King, first time through everybody else, all the GT3s. You know, you said you birthed the litter of cats, didn't you? So you never know.
It was scary,
There's definitely chance. It's not the longest track, so I think these cars, they're going to approach them quite a few times here, because the gap's about 10 seconds. They'd gain every 10 minutes. We're looking at least 60, 70 times the hypercars are going to have to overtake a GT3.
It was scary. That Laguna Seca run from Alec King was frightful. Like, I was just on edge every time I saw a GT3. And we said it had to come at some point, didn't we? We turned around and said, there has to be something coming out of Alec King, because you cannot approach the people as he has been throughout this entire race. But, you know, he managed to get through at the end of the day, which is great. I'm not quite sure where Ross is taking the number 43 car there, Brian Hall, but he's trying to take him somewhere. And I think it was, you know, I think he had one slide, did Alec King, but it was still quite a scary run.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of these guys, they are going to be on edge, and they're therefore going to put us on edge up here in the commentary booth at what is 2:30 in the morning over here in the UK. It's all right for all you viewers in the US, putting your feet up, just gone for a long day of work and having some tea. This is the middle of the night. This is going to be keeping us up for hours, James.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? And I think if we couldn't sleep for Laguna, literally I was in the same boat as you. It was sun up by the time I was even thought about trying to go to sleep. But, you know, these guys are delivering every single round, and it's just getting better and better and better, and I think this is going to be no exception. I think when we get this up and running, get this underway, we'll go on board with the leader of the hypercars like we do every single time, see his first time through the traffic and see how he manages it, and if it is Franco Alvarez, well, let's see how he gets on. We've not seen him really slice through at the beginning of the field. He's going to want to get away from the pack behind him. Can he make it through cleanly? That's going to be the question there as well. Keo added, we should all give thanks to the people on the mics adding their professionalism and time. Thanks to them as well. Much appreciated, Keo. It's something obviously that we do and something that we enjoy. Otherwise, we would not be sat here at 2:30 in the morning doing this wonderful league with these wonderful drivers and watching some wonderful action. Ross is in the booth again. I presume there was a server reset, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, we're having some issues here with Alec King. He just, he could see everybody, but no one could see him, which we've seen that happen very rarely, and it's some kind of server syncing thing that goes on, and we just were making sure he got back, and I think Matthew Overton also ran into something kind of odd, so I think they're just getting that sorted out now, and they should be all set to go here in just a second.
Yeah, no dramas, mate. I did wonder why everybody started going and then everybody disappeared, but I did mention it would probably be a server reset as well. You know, we'll give it another try in a minute. Are we going straight, or are we going to wait for them to get in? Will the time get extended again?
No, we should be able to go straight in, and it should be just a matter of the countdown for the beginning, and that should be it.
Well, they've got about 1 second, so let's hope they're in and sitting ready to go here, Mr. Smith. Good luck, dear sir. What were you doing with Brian Hall's car in the pit lane?
With Brian Hall, I was just testing to make sure that we could actually make contact with Alec, and we confirmed that. So, you know, sometimes you have to do a little bit of investigative journalism to get things, making sure they're working right.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to look up another driver's skirt there, dear sir. You know what I mean?
Well, you sometimes it's what you got to do. Right? That's all I can say.
Steady, Mr. Smith, steady. Go get yourself on the grid before you get yourself in trouble.
Just getting it out of the way here, you know, so that we don't have to worry about it in the race.
Oh, we going again? No, are we out? Are we on? What's going on? There's a lot of flickering.
I think we're good to go. Everyone's going to get on the grid. I'm going to hop back in there, and I'll let you know if there are any issues.
All right, mate. Oh, dearie me. Don't ask, Darren. You can probably see it. You get ourselves in trouble here.
It's a good job we're not live. Oh, we are live.
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube forever.
Just lost in the algorithm for decades to come.
Yes.
No, but whilst Ross was doing that, everyone else seemed to be doing something similar. Actually, it looked like a conga line, really. If we put it nicely. Of course, it's not after the watershed in parts of America, so it's the conga line. We'll go with that. It's family friendly, isn't it?
It sounds more professional than what I probably said, to be fair.
Well, we'll get a full formation lap here. The time on the clock is 1 hour and 3 minutes, so I think the game is estimating this out lap, or formation lap, whatever you want to call it, is going to take 3 minutes or so, where Alvarez will lead us where it's not a name we've seen at the top, really, so far this season. It's really been King and Kirby. But Alvarez, he's put the cat amongst the pigeons. I had initially put down, as we were counting down, that Franco Alvarez was unseated by Alec King for pole position, but Alvarez seemingly getting it back off of Alec King. So definitely some pace in that car. But I think something is to be said that a lot of these drivers have said they've done very few laps of this track.
Well, he's had a third, a fourth, and 2 DNFs. So let's see how he gets on. Maybe being at the front might help him.
Traffic. I think that's the key word. It's the key word of every day, though. How well can he get through on traffic? It's really why we love this series. It's really why we are up at 2:30 in the morning, because this is just a fantastic series, some fantastic racing, and yeah, you never really know what you're going to find around the next corner, and often we have 4 cameras locked and loaded with an instant ongoing, don't we? Now we've got to go around the fountain, don't we? And then we can get ourselves back towards the start-finish line. But, I mean, we're going through this part of the racetrack where, with that straight that comes up to here, there are going to be hypercars wanting to get through, and it is wide enough to get through. But I think we might see a few of the GT3s being a little bit surprised, I think it's a fair way to say, that a hypercar might be trying to make their way through. But only a couple of corners to go here. Can Alvarez hang on, James, or will King and Kirby, will their quality shine through?
Come on, let's face it. Everybody wants to see if Alvarez can get through, right? You know, they're coming around the final corner, so we're going to be up and running soon.
We all want to see, just to see if we get a bit of a title battle. Of course, nearly halfway through the season now, still a long way to go, but Alvarez can he put the cat amongst the proverbial pigeons. The green flag is waving. When does he drop the hammer and get this race underway? Here's the start-finish line. We've got an hour of racing here at Belle Isle, and we are green here for an hour in the VWSC NRAS series. They're all single file across the line, so not too many overtakes in the opening couple of corners, but the overtakes will start on the run down to turn 3, and already look at that Alvarez breaking the toe, moving once, twice, 3 times and more, but he will keep the lead ahead of King as they run down towards turn 3. Behind it, Walid Beninka going to get a good enough start to defend from Max Sunderlap, it seems, down towards turn 3, and not too many problems for the leaders off the line.
No, everybody got away cleanly, which was more important than they had to try and achieve here. Beninka got off in the GT3. He's done a great job with Max Sunderlap behind them. Back in the hypercars, Alvarez there, you saw him weaving down that long straight from turn 2 to 3. He's now heading down from 6 to 7. He needs to try and keep this clear. Alec King again with Dan Kirby, Mike Bell, all these 4 are no slouches. They've opened up a 2.2 second gap over Jerry Chen, Wayne Galvin, Brian Hall and Norm Graff. So these 4 have already broken away, and the peloton and the pack have got to chase. The peloton up front is the 4 up front, and there's the pack behind, like a pack of wolves trying to chase them down.
Yeah, Adrian Wright having an awful start. You could just about see the tower there, the hypercar driver down in P30, so something has happened to him. Also not good for Brian Hall off of the line. He's dropped a couple of seconds back with Jen and Galvin and is becoming disconnected from, you know, the likes of Bale, Kirby, who are realistically his race in terms of the points. But yeah, for Brian Hall, he's got some work to do. He's even dropping back from Galvin and Chen here, so not looking good for him. But we'll have a quick check-in on Paul Ibbotts in this green and yellow machine. Bearing down on the drivers in front. He's in the mid-pack, looking to move forward, but the GT3s look quite tightly packed after the opening lap.
Yeah, Michael Locke is in there as well. That's Eric Jacobs behind us. And also Vinicius Goncalves is there as well. They are coming round turn 8. No, it's not turn 8 at all. Turn 5 on the run down here. So they've got a lot to try and contend with. And I think this, at the end of the day, for the GT3s is going to be very difficult. Partly due to the fact that the hypercars are going to be coming through so quickly. I think the likes of Alvarez, he's going to be coming through at a rate of knots. He's opened up a second over Alec King, Dan Kirby there. Unfortunately, there was somebody, it looked like, out of that gap. It might have been this pack here, may have just tagged the wall there, but it is Alvarez with King half a second back, Kirby up front, and Mike Bell in there as well.
Someone I think we're definitely going to have to watch out for in these early stages is Adrian Wright, because of course he is coming through these GT3s. He's right in the pack, down in P27 at the moment, and he is having to overtake these GT3s for position, of course. Having the mistake, I saw a yellow in Sector 1 when he went through, so possibly something happening there, but he is a long way back. We've got a replay off of the start, and that is not what you want to see. Car in the pit lane already, and this will be wide. That does not look healthy, and the wall isn't going to help either.
It's going to be very, very interesting. They've got to try, he's going to have to try and follow Alvarez through, which is going to put pressure on King, and as these guys come round into turn 8.
I think it's really only going to be another lap and a half before we see Alvarez catch the back of the pack with Tom Nacella and Michael Mudge, P29 and P30 at the moment. There's only about a third of a lap. Maybe it'll take 2 laps, but really not that long. Can Alvarez hang on to the lead here ahead of Alec King before we get to the back of the pack? And then we're going to start to see a different dynamic, of course, having to overtake the traffic. Can King use that to his advantage? Can Alvarez use it to his advantage? Really, that's where the race is going to be won and lost. Another quick mention of Adrian Rice. He's up to P23 now. He's fighting his way through, but he is losing about 6 seconds a lap at this stage, having to fight his way through. So with every passing lap that we go through, you can see it just on the top because there's only 6 Hypercar Pro cars. He's 51 seconds off the lead and a long way off of Hall. But the gap between Alvarez and King really could be much closer.
Yeah, it couldn't be. Oh, King just did tag the wall there. That's never good for Alec King. He's going to try and stay off the wall because otherwise it's going to cause him... Oh! Big thump from Alec King straight into the wall. And that is going to put him in the clutches of Dan Kirby very, very shortly. King's got to try and survive, but it's going to be very difficult as they come into the right-hander of turn 7.
Yeah, it's not really good for Alec King, but it's good that he kept his position, of course, to Dan Kirby, who is the alien we've all got to beware. Yellow in Sector 2. I saw a position change. I think it was in the Hypercar AM category. So maybe something that we will see shortly has gone awry for somebody. But for Alec King, just got to keep it nice and calm, and he will surely have a chance on Alvarez. Here is the incident then in the Hypercar AM category, and that is what we're seeing. Rear end smashing into the wall. I believe that's the corner where Rosenqvist's throttle stuck on, of course, in the IndyCar a few years ago. And another incident, that is, of course, what we saw before. Difficult, isn't it? But it's so easy to go wide. And that was Jerry Chen, actually, my bad, not Alec King. Jerry Chen going wide. So Wayne Galvin taking full advantage.
GT3s currently at the moment, as these guys are continually fighting it out. It's going to be interesting to see how much longer we're going to have Alvarez going through the field, and how is that going to work with Alec King following him. I think that's going to be the tough one to see what happens with these guys. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the Alvarez making his way through traffic, and well, just as we speak, right on cue, he is going to be doing that very, very shortly. So here is the GT3 traffic. Let's see how he gets on.
Oh, straight down into turn 1. There's one, and the other one jumps out of the way. So it's not too much of a problem for Franco Alvarez this first time around, but it has taken us 6 minutes to catch the first GT3 traffic. It just shows the time difference in the lap times between some of the drivers. Last lap, Franco Alvarez, 19.9. Michael Mudge, 33.6. That is a 14-second advantage that Franco Alvarez has around the lap that's only 1 minute 19. So that's every 5 laps he's going to be approaching the same cars. It'll be slightly less for some of the faster GT3 cars, but the rule remains realistically the same, that it's going to be pretty constant all the way through this race, and he's going to have to deal with this traffic consistently, and how he deals with it is whether is really going to be the deciding factor whether he wins this race or not. Yellow flags making the timing tower light up like a Christmas tree, and that is why Paul Ibbotson.
Yeah, Paul Ibbotson just had a little bit of a moment. Oh, that's with Eric Jacobs.
More contact.
Oh, he goes in. Oh, loses a wheel. He manages.
It's going to be a hefty repair.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute nightmare for him. The thing is, as well, is
back to Alvarez.
Yeah, King's not making it through at the same rate. You can see Ross Smith there making a move as well. He's trying to go side by side with David Anderson. That's blocked in Alec King. He's got nowhere to go apart from trying to make it 3 wide. He's got to try and stay with Alvarez. And at the moment, Alvarez is catching the cars in a better position, and he is going down into the corners there. Now we've got Dan Kirby and Alec King. King again goes through on another GT3. So we're starting to get that traffic. And this is going to be the same for them now. every single lap. They are going to be catching traffic every single lap from now on. I don't think there's going to be one respite where they're not going to at least be passing someone.
I'm going to keep a tally of the amount of times I see yellow on the timing tower, just out of pure enjoyment, because I've seen it at least 4 times already, and I think it might increase judging by the moves we're seeing just ahead of Franco Alvarez. Quick look at Eric Jacobs, P7 in the GT3 category. He's currently fending off the driver behind, who is, looking at the timing tower, Vinicius Goncalves. So these two running quite close together in the early stages, but you can just see in behind, I think that's Alvarez making his way through traffic, and yes, there we go, down the inside of Oliver Day this time, and he makes himself up another position through these GT3s. King and Kirby have been kind of going at the same pace, haven't they? But not at the same pace as Franco Alvarez, who has been running away at this in these last couple of laps.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're all catching traffic in really bad spots. Alvarez is managing to catch him in the best spot at the moment. But even Alec King's finding it struggling to get through. Is now, if Alvarez is going to be able to get them GT3s going down into the right-hander, he's not on the moment here, but he is going to try. He needs to go through now as he's coming into the right of turn 4 before he goes left into 5. We've lost Paul Ibbotson as well. Unfortunately, him and Stacey Scott are the DNFs currently on the board here. But you can see Alec King closes in, and then the gap extends because he catches him in a bad spot. However, King did just make a mistake there. King has made a mistake that's going to allow Kirby to close right back in again on him as they still go full. More traffic here with Alec King and Dan Kirby, and they did not catch that GT3 in a good spot. Alec King, as we said, going around the outside of the fountain, gets the job done.
And this is what I mentioned about catching traffic in this part of the racetrack. It is wide enough to make the move, but with corner after corner and apex after apex being hit by the GT3s, almost impossible for the hypercars, which we know aren't that much quicker in the medium to slow speed corners in the GT3s. Very difficult for them to make their way through, and they can lose quite a bit of time. Franco Alvarez, though, he is loving life at this stage. He's making his way past GT3 after GT3, waiting through turns 1 and 2 this time around, but he will get the run on at least 2 here, trying to get a bit of a switchback, and there he goes, past a couple of drivers, and I do believe he's actually overtaking people who are, you know, P5, P6 in the GT3 class. So he's nearly completed an entire you know, set of GT3s, if you want to say, where he's passed every single GT3 once, and he's even coming up towards the back of Adrian Rice, who is now clear of the GT3s on the back of Blaney Hall. But this is looking difficult for Alvarez, isn't it, through here?
Yeah, he's being, I was going to say he's being held up, but he's not. He's being patient. The problem is King's being patient as well, and so is Dan Kirby. So that's great to see from these guys, because trust me, after Laguna Seca, I literally had my own litter of kittens running around because so much was going on here again. But Alvarez has been really patient so far. He didn't have to be going through that section of 7, 8 and 9. He could have made it a lot, you know, a lot more rushed and a lot more put pressure on himself to try and do it, and yet he did manage to make it through cleanly. So a great job from Alvarez at the moment.
Really is showing some class here, isn't he? I mean, he's not won a race so far this season, but this is definitely going to be a good opportunity for him. Have a bit of a mark on the tally as we see yellow in sector 2. Nothing concerning Franco Alvarez as he makes his way through turn 1 and 2 with a little bit less traffic than he had to deal with last time around. His next car to lap is going to be JT Tanny, who is 4th in the GT3 battle. So it just shows you how quickly Franco Alvarez is getting through everybody. It's only taken him 12 minutes to get onto the back of JT Tanny, which means he's going to have to lap him, you'd think, maybe another 4 times in this race.
At least. Oh, don't do something silly. You've done so well so far for Alvarez. He managed to hold on going through turn 5 into 6 there, so he does get through. He's now coming up, I believe that is Max Sumferlap. That's the 2nd place man in the GT3s, with Benica further down the road. They're on their run through 8 at the moment. No, starting off, sorry, the right hander turn 7 now. They're going through 8 and into 9, so a great job from these guys. Oh no, he nearly lost it. Alvarez on his own that time around. He's just fortunate Alec King had not made it through on the traffic behind him.
Yeah, it's not looking good, and that is not the best way for a GT3 car to either be getting out of the way. I don't really know what was going on there. Caused a minor yellow flag, but through will go in the end. Alvarez, as we are still seeing yellow. David Anderson back here. I'm noting on looking at the track map that after Eduardo Benica is dealt with by Franco Alvarez, there is a relatively large gap that Franco Alvarez can drive into. It's about a third of the lap, so about 20 seconds, 30 seconds of space that he's going to be able to drive into, where he's not going to face a GT3 for a few laps, and he can really try to assert that authority over King and Kirby there.
Yeah, we've lost Tommy Nacella, and I can't quite work out where. There's a very slow there.
See that GT3 going very slowly that we saw?
Yeah, but he's right there at the... No, that's not it. Where did we lose? See, here he's just DNF'd at the moment, but there's nothing in the middle. He's in the wall. But where did he go in the wall? Let's see. We might have to go back a little bit here. I don't know if I've gone a bit too far, but this is Tommy Nacella who did stick it in the wall. I've gone back a little bit, so I'm hoping I haven't gone back too far on this, otherwise we were going to be sat here for a while. But I think we may have just gone back a little bit too far, but he does go into the wall not long after. Let's see if I can find what he does, but clearly whatever it is, he's DNF'd out. Michael Mudge is also into the pits as well. Was there contact with a hypercar? No. So he makes it through that bit okay here, Dara. So we'll stay on this for a minute or so. Oh, I thought that was it then. He was a little bit loose.
I selected, to be fair.
Yeah, he got it done and saved it well, but taxed the wall a little bit.
I think it's in
there.
his right hander upcoming, I reckon. Or even this left-hander. Is it going to be here? We've seen a couple of incidents so far. No.
No, where did he do that then?
What's going on? Is it T?
Oh!
Oh, there it is. Hello. That is not the ideal line, and you shouldn't really be sliding along with your door.
No, so that is why Tommy Nacella is DNF'd. Due to that very bizarre contact with a wall. He looked like he just did it at full throttle as well. That was even more weirder.
Yeah. Maybe a technical issue, maybe his throttle stuck. I did mention that Felix Rosenqvist, of course, in the IndyCar a few years ago, throttle stuck on, and he went straight into the barrier at near hyperspeed, and maybe something similar has happened. Of course, more plausible in the virtual world that your pedals fail. Which could easily happen, but yeah, not really ideal. And I think it is that car that we saw going very slowly when the leaders were coming through in the hypercars. Quick mention of the leaders: Franco Alvarez. He's in a bit of clear air now. Alec King, was not in clear air, and last time around, Franco Alvarez took 2.5 seconds out of Alec King, so was clearly benefiting from that. What you could say lack of traffic in front of him, but he's going to have to come up to some more soon.
Yeah, he'll be there very, very shortly. We've got the cars pretty spread out. However, Stephen Miller and Sean Kelly are in there with Ross Smith, who's just capitalised behind that. There's a Mercedes behind them as well. I think that is Carl Strohol. It is. So we've got Kelly in that Mercedes up the front. We've got Smith in the Lamborghini behind, and we've got Miller in there as well. So a great little battle further down here in the GT3s, and we've got hypercars coming through.
So I don't want to tell you too much about Alvarez. It's saying that he's DNF. Oh no.
Why did he DNF?
I mean, was that a connection issue? Was it a crash? We're going to have to see a replay of this one to see what's happened. He was in clean air. Does he disappear? Does he make a mistake through? It disappears. Oh, no.
He just ends up in pit road.
That screams internet to me, yeah. Oh, that's heart-wrenching for him. He was doing such a good job. He was 5-6 seconds in the lead.
And he's just joined the list of people who have DNF'd. Wow.
which already stands at 4.
4, yeah, and we've still got 41 minutes in. We're going to start seeing pit cycles coming through very shortly as well for the hypercars, of course. But yeah, unfortunately, Miller's just thumped the tyre barrier there. That hypercar, although he's playing it very, very safe, is probably not. Miller's broken. Is he broken? Because he is. Surely. He's left hand down.
Oh yeah.
Pit's there. Nope. Okay.
Still going.
Oh, steady.
Is he an absolute trooper or is he absolutely mad? That's the question.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I think, to be fair, he's trying to do a corner that should only be a little bit of a steering, and he's almost 90 degrees getting that car turned. He's definitely left hand down by about 20 degrees here. How is he going to get round at right-hander? Because he's going to have to turn the wheel. No, you're too tight. You're too tight. Oh.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that if your road car was doing that, you would not be driving it for much longer. You'd probably pull up on the side of the road and stop there, but not such the case here in the EWSC NRS series. Goodness me, 8 letters, got to get them in the right order. But that is not a healthy-looking GT3 car, and if you offered me that, I wouldn't pay anything for it. I don't think.
No, I think I would be there going, resolve that issue of why my steering's to 25 degrees to the left before you even think about giving me that car. So, yeah, not a good idea. Carl Straw just got a little bit loose. That was Sean Kelly in the wall, and then David Anderson behind him in that Ferrari. So, yeah, Stephen Miller's car is busted. How he's not got into the pits, I do not know, but for whatever reason he hasn't, and he's still carrying on. So fair play to Stephen Miller, and there's some great little battles throughout the GT3s here. I believe Alvarez is back out. There he is. He's back out again for Franco Alvarez, but he's now right in the mix with the GT3s and 2 laps down on the leader in hypercars.
Yeah, where is he in? Yes, so he is 27th overall, and he's actually only 11 seconds. I say only 11 seconds off the back of Stephen Miller for position. So he's not too far off, but I don't think he's going to be winning the race by any stretch of the imagination. Yellow in Sector 1 brings the total up to 10 already that I've counted, and I probably missed a couple. As we are starting to see the first pit stops, Jerry Chen in, and this is what we're talking about, the 2-stop here, James, isn't it? Because this is kind of the time we're expecting the first stop.
Yeah, this is hypercar territory now. We know they need 2. It's going to be round about the 20-minute mark to go after this one. Obviously, for the likes of Alvarez, he's out of sync, so he's clearly not going to be stopping at the same time as everybody else, but this is roughly where we expect the hypercars to be going here as well. As we've got JT Tammy and Yuji Mazur having a battle in the GT3s. This is the battle for 3rd and 4th overall in class, so a great job from both of these guys. But yeah, Alvarez has got his work to cut out. Pit stop cycle starting. Be interested to see what the GT3s do in probably about 8 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes time. They'll get their 1 stop out the way as well. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's difficult really for these hypercars, considering they've got another pit stop to do, because it's just going to add an extra layer of traffic, because whenever they pit, they might come into different parts of the traffic. It might cost them a little bit more time, and then they've got to do it twice. It then could compound the misery, or it could really kind of benefit your race, maybe getting a bit of an undercut, overcut, or whatever floats your boat. But definitely, I think we're expecting to see a lot of people in this or next lap. All of the hypercars, really, because I can't see them getting too much further on the fuel. They might try and stick it out. If they can stick it out a few more laps, they could be looking for a 1 stop, but then they leave the risk of that splash and dash at the end, don't they?
Yeah, it'll be very hard for the hypercars, I think, unless they've done some major fuel saving to pull this into a 1-stop race. They're on the throttle pretty much all the time. There isn't really much place to be able to save. Obviously, they could lift and coast coming down from 2 to 3, lift and coast from 6 to 7, but that's going to be very difficult for them to try and control. I think you're better off just running it until it's empty. Do you know what I mean on that one? We've had David Anderson do something here in that Ferrari, because he's just... Oh, no!
Oh, no. That'll be why.
Straight into the side of that hypercar as well.
Yeah, there's nothing the hypercar has done as well. I mean, he just loses the rear end coming through turn 2, and that hypercar is it's a sorry passenger. There's nothing that can happen there. Was it Mike Bell there getting hit?
I think so. No, it wasn't Bell.
I mean, it would make. It was a similarly looking car, wasn't it?
Yeah. There he is. Oh, it's Wayne Garvin.
Ah, yeah. A man who I believe he had a drive-through, didn't he? Last time out at Laguna Seca, back for podium. Wayne Garvin still does lead that the Hypercar AM category for now, but I believe that's because he hasn't made a pit stop yet. Gary Chen has. So keep an eye out for that one. As we are going to 36 minutes. I mean, we are getting closer and closer to a point where the hypercars may actually be able to go for a one-stop here.
Yeah, Alec King's in the pits. He's just gone in now.
Well, that ruins that then.
Yeah, it depends what Kirby's going to do. Is if Dan Kirby's going to go through here. He has gone through, has Dan Kirby. So Kirby has taken the lead of the race. That's Alvarez trying to unlap himself on Dan Kirby. And they're behind him, and as they're coming up to GT3 traffic. But again, as we say, this is going to be a continuation all the way through. 4 DNF so far: Brad Anderson, Tom Nacella, Paul Ibbotson, and Stacey Scott. Stacey right at the beginning there, unfortunately for us on lap 1. Obviously, Paul Ibbotson, we saw what happened to him, and then Tommy Nacella as well into the wall, nearly flipped the Ford he was in, and David Anderson again, we've just seen what happened. So yeah, lots going on all the way through at the moment, and yeah, very difficult for Alvarez. He's in quite a situation here because he knows he's quicker than some of the cars he's around at the moment, like the stuff of like Dan Kirby. He'll have an opportunity to overtake him, but I can tell you one thing: if he doesn't overtake him and pull him, get away from him, he's going to have blue flags waving at him because obviously they're same class.
His saving grace, I mean, silver lining, it's a thin silver lining, but it's still all the same, is that he should be able to get to the end of this race on one more stop. He doesn't have to worry about a splash and dash to the end, because he came out about 5-6 minutes ago, and clearly these cars can do slightly more than 20 minutes on a tank of fuel, but he is struggling to get his way through on Dan Kirby, and I'm sure he's just begging Dan to go into the pit lane, but he can't be out for too much longer, you'd think. As he goes to the inside, I mean, clearly Alvarez has the pace, but it just shows that it's difficult to have a track in a street track, even though we're seeing quite a bit of it with the multi-class action.
And the thing is, it's not there for Dan Kirby to have to dive out the way, because obviously he's in front of him. So Kirby hasn't got to really dive out the way. He hasn't got to give him any special precedent or anything like that. It's down to Alvarez to try and get the move done if he's being quicker than the cars around him. But he just can't get it done. I think the problem is obviously Kirby's so quick in his own right that he's staying in front of Alvarez. So Alvarez has got nowhere to go whatsoever. He's just got to try and sit there or try and make a move. But I can tell you one thing: if he dives him again and then makes contact with him, he's going to be in trouble with the steward. So he really wants to be a little bit mindful of what he's doing here.
Yeah, got to be careful. I mean, he can't really afford to make a big mistake, especially with himself so far down already. Will Kirby help him? No, Alvarez is the one who comes into the box, which surprises me.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's him calling it a night.
Why that? Possibly. If he is, at least he didn't crash it into a wall and then call it. He's not stopped on his marks very well, so possibly. But it means that Dan Kirby has no hassle now. He can just try and go off these GT3 cars without a worry in the world.
Yeah, that's JT Tammy still there with Eugene Mazur fighting it out as these guys are continuing to battle once again with JT Tammy there. Kirby is on his way through, just starting to come through. JT takes a very wide line out the corner, allows Kirby to get the run. Job done. Can Mazur cover him off? He does on that run up into the right-hander of turn 7 here. JT Tammy had to be really careful, and so did Eugene Mazur there, because they were both trying to move out the way of Kirby, but both left the door open to each other. So, you know, you've got to be a little bit mindful of where you're going to let them through.
Yeah, it's always a risk, isn't it, really, whether you go left or right. And then, of course, we saw, particularly at Laguna Seca last time out, there was that big incident down at Turn 1, wasn't there? I think it was Paul Ibbotson involved.
Yes.
And we saw a couple of cars across the grass. We saw, you know, it wasn't even grass, sorry, it was the dirt being over in California. But there's always that risk of a bit of a misunderstanding, a bit of a miscommunication, and it can really just ruin your race. And hopefully we don't see much of the same here this evening. But I mean, we've still got more than half of the race to go, and I would not be surprised to see quite a bit of it.
Yeah, I think that we could end up seeing a little bit more. I don't think it's going to be too drastic. Alvarez is back out on track, unless he's having technical issues. Jesus. Unless he's having technical issues and he keeps having to go in and try and correct whatever's causing him a problem. And that's why he's in and out, in and out, in and out. I'm not in charge because I can't get a hold of him while he's driving, so I can't give you no point me dropping him a message because he won't see it till after the race. But I got a funny feeling there might be something playing up here that he's had to keep going in because he's now I've got him at 4 laps down compared to when we had him at 2. So clearly that's not the only visit in pit lane that we've seen.
It's not. I mean, he's out of the race, Franco Alvarez, realistically, isn't he? Whatever he does. Rice is into the box now, but it's not going to help him particularly. I mean, Franco Alvarez overall is currently sat in, look at this, still in P26, 4 laps down. Max Dunlap in front of him is 3 laps down, and Stephen Miller, who's 3 places ahead of him, is only 2 laps down. So he's over a lap behind Stephen Miller. I mean, he would be able to get past him before the end of this race, probably past the rest of the GT3s if he's lucky, maybe just a few of them, but he's just going around for pride at this point and hoping a few other Hypercars DNF realistically, but that does not look comfortable, does it?
It's not looking comfortable. He is not looking comfortable in that Porsche 963 at the moment. It seems like he's struggling. The cars in front aren't doing well either, though, mind you. They're a little bit squirrely as they're all trying to get out of the way because that's the leader, Alec King. Kirby is in behind that. So King did get Kirby coming out of the pit lane. Brian Hall is in the pits as well. So there's still a lot going. There is a nasty bump coming out of 1, and that could explain why Paul, who was it that went round? Paul Ibbotson, I think it was, that went round off that bump, because there is quite a nasty bump there. And Kirby and Alvarez are back together, but of course not fighting it out for position. So yeah, we'll be interested to see how this one plans out.
Yeah, unlike the launch pads that we saw off the curbs at Laguna Seca last week, I do believe that big bump at turn 2 is actually real, and that I have seen many cars bounce their way over that in the past. So yeah, at least we're getting some more realistic bounces across some of the track from these cars than we saw last week. Dan Kirby, though, I don't know if Franco Alvarez is going to be pleased at this stage, if I'm completely honest. I think he's going to be a little bit sick of seeing the back of Dan Kirby.
It's got no rights. Right about now, if this was a battle for position, then yes, the frustration from Alvarez could kick in. But currently Alvarez has got no rights over to what Dan Kirby does. He's 4 laps back. He isn't effectively in the race. He's not effectively racing with anyone. So technically, Kirby's got free reign to put his car wherever he wants, regardless of where that may be. It's, as far as Kirby's concerned, he's battling. He's trying to get hold of Alec King. He doesn't have to worry about Franco in front of him. You're pulling out, you're telling signs, but it ain't going to make no difference. You've got to make the move, and if you are quicker, you will be able to get through. That's my philosophy on that one.
And there is Alec King. Talking of Alec King, he's right at the front of shot. He is making his way through right in front of Kirby and Alvarez here. So you'd argue the 3 fastest cars on the racetrack right now are pretty much split by about a second and a half. Dan Kirby struggling to get through GT3. Massive checkup because of a bit of a slide from the Mercedes-Benz. But here comes Dan Kirby. Here comes Franco Alvarez trying to unlap one of the laps that Dan Kirby has put on him throughout this race. He'll again in Sector 1. Won't phase these guys. But they've got to keep tabs with Alec King, because you can just about see him in the front of picture, but he is disappearing fast as he gets through this GT3 traffic quite easily. Yeah,
the GT3s have started coming in as well. We've got Ross Smith, Oliver Day, Michael Mudge is back in the pits. Brian Hall's still in the pits as well, mind you, and has been for 2.5. Oh no, he's back in, I believe, is Brian Hall. So we'll keep an eye and see if everything's okay with him. But yeah, at the moment, it's just all about what Kirby can do, getting hold of Alec King. These are probably one of the closest battles on your screen. Obviously, we know that Alvarez is not involved in this battle. I'm not losing my marbles. I promise I am aware of that. But this is, even with that 2.6 battle, they are probably one of the closest battles at the moment. However, Ross Smith, not too sure if he missed his pit box or had to reverse out of it because he was going to hit the car in front there. But either way, Ross Smith has come out in conjunction with, I believe that's Sean Kelly. So this is a battle for position between these two GT3s.
It is, but Ross Smith, he's working his way through a couple of the GT3s, was penultimate in class, but he is working his way up to what is now P8, I do believe. Sean Kelly is P4 in the AM category, so he's fighting with Ross Smith, yes, but his real battle is Carl Struwell, who is about 45 seconds up the road at this stage. So he's got bigger fish to fry, I think, than Ross Smith. And maybe thinking about that in the back of his mind. You can see Sean Kelly, he's a lap down on Alan Holden, who's the lead car in this AM category. So he's not had the best first half of the race, but there's still 25 and a half minutes left. And oh my word, if that wasn't a bit of lag, it could have been a lot. It could have ended quite quickly for Sean Kelly.
Yeah, he could have ended up punting that in the wall there. I'm just glad he came back before he got in that situation. Matthew Overton is into the pit lane. Now we've now got Brian Hall 1 lap down. Now Alvarez has said he's only 1 lap down here. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Franco Alvarez. 1 minute he's 1 lap, then he's 4 laps, and I'm wondering if that's his 1 lap behind the next car in front.
Yes.
Let's have a look at where he is in conjunction with the leader. Yeah, he is 4 laps down on the leader. Brian Hall's down 2 and Adrian Rice is down 1. So he is a long way off the pace there, unfortunately, for Franco. And has he managed to clear down Kirby? Yes, finally he has.
And he can now try and chase after his next competitor, Stephen Miller, who's in the GT3 AM category, 24 seconds ahead of Franco Alvarez, though I expect that to come down at a rate of knots, considering that Stephen Miller his fastest lap is 12 seconds slower than Franco Alvarez's fastest lap. So as Alvarez has been released, he can now chase after the cars he's fighting. They aren't exactly the cars he'd want to be fighting at this stage of the race, as he is, of course, 4 laps down. We'll have to see how far through the order he can get. And with Brian Hall having his own issues, there's always a chance that maybe P5 as well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. As we can see, it's interesting the fact that we've put Franco Alvarez on pole, we put him in the lead, we put him out of the race, we put him back in the race, we put him laps down, and now we've just put him down with trying to chase down a GT3 car, which really you wouldn't put that in one sentence. You know, you would think he'd be chasing down the likes of Alec King, the likes of Dan Kirby, but he isn't. He is literally chasing down Stephen Miller, which seems insane that he's got himself in that situation due to whatever happened with him.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a bizarre race, really, hasn't it? With Alvarez. Oh my word, Matthew Overton. I thought he was taking a trip to the wall. Maybe he was in a little bit more control than I thought he was, but that didn't look pretty at all either. He'll make his way through the final corner as he trails Eric Jacobs. That gap not too big either, about 2 seconds, bubbling around there for the time being. And the Canadian driver is going to have to deal with Eric Jacobs coming out of the pit lane now, because he is the driver to focus on.
Yeah, he is right in front of him. For Matthew Overton, he's got to try and get up there and try and put him under pressure, but his hypercar is coming into the mix as well. That's the number 50 machine of Lanny Hall. Lanny there is obviously in the hypercar AMS with these guys in the GTs. He's got to... you cannot... Oh, dearie me.
That is... Oh, and that's not the line. Nearly going into the wall wide. Then there's another hypercar, coming through on the GT3, but Yeah, that did not look comfortable. Lanny Hall involved towards the back there. We look back up quickly at Adrian Rice, Gilles Lalonde. These two quite close together on track, but they're not fighting for position in terms of class because they are in different classes. Gilles Lalonde being in the AM category, Brian Hall being in the Pro category, but Gilles Lalonde likely to see Brian Hall disappear up the road if he can get through the height on the GT3s, because the GT3s, they've been moving chicanes all the way through, and how you get through them has been the story of the night.
Yeah, you've got to just find you've got patience. I think that's the thing. I'm trying to pick up, that's Mike Bell. I was trying to find who it was. It is Mike Bell going past the Ferrari. Of course, in the background, you can just see Eric Jacobs in that Mercedes with Matthew Overton behind him there. So we've lost 4 cars so far, DNF-wise, but David Anderson, Tom Nacella, Paul Ibbotson and Stacey Scott, who we lost right at the beginning. I think Michael Marge is having an evening to forget. Let's see what he's been up to. Oh no, I think he's just trying to remove himself out of the way there. Yeah, he is. But Eduardo Bonica has also been up to no good. Oh, there's a hypercar around the wrong way there. Oh,
in that's Dan Kirby, isn't it? In that black Alpine car.
It's not Kirby.
Not Kirby. Oh no, he's absolutely exactly where he was. So it is someone else who is looking almost identical to Dan Kirby.
38. Oh, Gilles Lalonde.
Yeah, there you go. In the ironically, the other Alpine car. That'll be why they look identical. But for Bonica, I mean, you approach a car. It's realistically a blind corner, as most of these are at the street circuit, and you find a hypercar facing the wrong way.
Yeah, well, this is hopefully. I think this is why. Yes, that is why. And then we just had Eduardo Bonica come around the corner and Bosch straight into us.
Him righting himself a little bit, didn't he?
He tried to push him around a little bit, didn't he? Gave him a little bit of a shove, but yeah, not ideal. Not ideal.
It felt very much like the it felt very much like the Grand Tour special with Colin Chartois. Like, merci, monsieur, after smashing into each other. Felt a bit like that. But at least he's right. He's going again. We're seeing more Hypercar GT3 action. Eric Jacobs, Matthew Overton. These guys are fighting for position, of course, as they let through the GT3s, which include, I believe, that was Franco Alvarez, who's right on the back of, I believe, that is Alec King. So he's got through on Dan Kirby, but he has got more issues with still being, realistically, the fastest car on the racetrack and having a second fastest car in his way.
Yeah, the leader and a back marker trying to unlap himself. I wonder what could go wrong. Nothing, surely. As it looks like Jerry, that may have been Jerry Chen, I think, might have had a little bit of a night. I don't actually think it was. I think that may have been Lanny Hall, who's just had a bit of a moment there. Once again, unfortunately for him. But yeah, Alec King, Alvarez, what could happen? It'll be all right.
They'll be fine. They'll be absolutely fine. Franco Alvarez is actually approaching Oliver Day for position because he is still down in P25. He's approaching you'd say a gaggle of cars. He should approach them every half a lap or so for position, but he doesn't really care much for that. He's found his way through. I think Alec King, or has he not? No, he's not found his way through. Or has he? There's two very similar livery cars. I think they
are, but I think he is behind. Alvarez is behind. So let's just clarify that. Alvarez is behind Alec King. I'm trying to see the number of the car in front. It's really quite annoying.
Norm Graf. Yes, it is Norm Graf.
Yeah, Norm
I'm
Graf.
sure in the other Cadillac. Or is it? No. Yeah, it could be Norm Graf, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Being the bit of the roadblock here, but it does look very similar to Alvarez. I think they're actually different cars, but the liveries are quite similar, and you would be forgiven for mistaking them for each other, but you can see there are slight differences. But Graf getting out of the way, allowing... I mean, I'm going to call them the two leaders because realistically they're on leader's pace, albeit always that's not the line for Norm Graf. And he won't be on leader's pace if his car gets damaged from that. And that might put his car into jeopardy a bit. He is dropping time consistently now.
Yeah, Alec King just going up the inside of that Corvette. Alvarez is trying to follow him through. He does follow him through. But again, very difficult scenario here for Alvarez, because even if he catches King, he's got to get past and get away. That's the mission, not just catching and passing, because he's got to get away from him. Otherwise, he's going to be under scrutiny again for whether or not he should be moving out the way in the safest possible scenario that obviously we're aware of, because he is technically a blue flag in the same class. So I'm guessing that's how it would work, and for Alvarez to be able to get past and pull away.
We did see him get past Dan Kirby and pull away. Alec King not playing ball particularly, but I mean, would it be wise for him to let him through maybe? Because of course, it does look like Alvarez has more pace. There's clearly no risk to letting him by, being 4 laps down. As I think they approach Ross Smith now through this difficult section. I mean, if you let Franco Alvarez go, he's not going to cause you any problems. He's not going to be able to hit you and maybe cause a bit of a collision. And I mean, is that the best course of action, or do you think leading and making these moves for himself is the way to go?
It's driver pride, isn't it? He doesn't want the lapped car coming past him, because it is just driver pride. It's how you mentally see yourself on the racetrack, is how King does see himself. He sees himself out in front. He doesn't want to be lapped by anybody, let alone Franco Alvarez, who was leading, because at the end of the day, it's that pride to say that, oh, I unlapped everyone in the whole field, including you, and all that. And Alec King isn't going to want that. However, Alvarez has just deep lunged him going in to turn 3 before they go round into 4, and Alvarez has got through. So we'll see what King does now, whether or not he's going to try and put chase up to him.
That was a lovely move, though, from Alvarez. Really, really was committed to the inside and got it stopped, left enough room, and then, of course, had the inside lines. It's the double right-hander down at 3 and 4. So gorgeous stuff, really, from Franco Alvarez, and he will march on his merry old ways. He's up to P20 now, the lofty height, and his next car, I think, on the road will be Vinicius Goncalves, who he will overtake for position, bar 1, because the car just in front is JT Tammy. So Alec King now, second in train. He's been the second fastest for most of this race, and Alvarez now making his way through on JT Tammy and trying to recover any kind of position that he had in this race. But it remains to be seen if he has to stop one more time in this race, because he did pit around the 30-minute mark, and I don't know how easily he's going to get to the end.
Yeah, not entirely sure on that one. I'm just trying to keep an eye on Alan Holden. He's leading, of course, in the GT3 AMS at the moment. It is Alex. So great job from him. He's trying to chase down Matthew Overton for position, but yet doesn't have to if he doesn't want to. I'm not quite sure who that hypercar was, but it wasn't not going well there. As you can see, this gaggle of cars getting involved here, Derek. Could all just go a little bit wrong. I believe that was the Mercedes of Carl Strohel into the pit lane, as these guys are carrying on. Eric Jacobs in there with Matthew Overton, Alan Holden behind them. Michael Locke just not too far up the road either. So it's all going down off in that mid-pack.
I mean, Benika's looked comfortable all the way through this race, and he has looked really comfortable all the way through the season, and that is no surprise to see him out in front. Oh my word! That was Matthew Overton, and that will not be a very happy hypercar, as Matthew Overton has realistically smashed his way into turn 3. Let's see it again. He has gone too late on the brakes. Goodbye chances for that hypercar. I'm not too sure who that was again. But, oh my word, was far too late on the brakes.
That was Wayne Galvin.
Wayne Galvin, oh no. And Wayne Galvin was leading the Hypercar AM category. I think he still is, but Jerry Chen now only 3 seconds back.
Yeah, that was Wayne Galvin that Matthew Overton just literally torpedoed there, unfortunately. Wayne Galvin is still running. What state is his car in? It doesn't look too well. It's a bit crumpled on the front right, as you can see, sticking up to the right hand side as well. So yeah, not an ideal scenario, but he may have been lucky in trying to get away with that, and he's still just about leading the Hypercar AMS, and he's still going to have one more stop, I believe, to come, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're not too sure on a couple of these drivers on where they're going with the strategy. Wayne Galvin did go long, but did he go long enough to get it to the end? 12 minutes left here in Detroit at Belle Isle. And Wayne Galvin, he does lead these cars, and even with that collision, overall, he sits very nicely in P3. With everything that's gone on, he is a minute off the lead, but he's only behind Alec King and Dan Kirby. So when all is said and done, at this stage of the race, he's standing on that podium.
Yeah, exactly. If we ended it right now, right here as we say, then yeah, he'd be sat in third place with Jerry Chen. That's Gilles Lalonde again.
Lalonde, I think.
Not going well for Gilles Lalonde at this moment in time in this race. It's yeah, been a very roller coaster-esque. All steady.
Oh no!
Move it, do something.
I mean, it's a good metaphor. It's a good metaphor for the Alpine F1 team season so far, isn't it? With Lalonde being in the Alpine hypercar there. That he's just having incident after incident, and it's not going well. Alec King, he's getting through on a fellow hypercar. Getting another lap on. He is cruising, really. Dan Kirby is in this race, but I don't know how much really he's in it. Of course, Alec King, we're expecting another pit stop. Dan Kirby, we're not. So that's really what it might come down to. But as has been all the way through the season, even with Alvarez having a big pace, it's come down to King versus Kirby again.
Yeah, it has, isn't it? 7.9 second gap. Paul Ibbotson is in YouTube chat as well. He said the walls are unforgiving. Car was already bent from other contacts before I sideswiped the wall. Lost rear end and engine. RF2 would not let me escape to the pits. Had to kill the program. I hope I wasn't a lame duck on the track for too long. You were a little bit. Kim D in there sounds frustrating, and then also just puts in my rear wheel. My friend's rear wheel fell off like the last week in real life. So there we go. Unfortunately, Kim D.
That was probably a crash, wasn't it?
Depends where it fell off. And do you know as well, if they hit you while they're rolling, depending on what is coming off, it'll just knock you clean out. They come at you with such pace.
It's worrying, isn't it? I remember a bit of Alex Jakes and Davide Valsecchi commentary with that in Formula 2 when that tyre was going down the pit lane. And when they both noticed and screamed at the same time, it was a fantastic little moment. But it is a scary moment in motorsport and in real life as well, because tyres, I mean, they don't look dangerous, but they are some of the most dangerous things around a car, really, aren't they? On their own, they can be absolutely lethal. We've had Alec King into the pit lane, which means that Dan Kirby is in the lead. Can King rope him in? It looked like it was a bit of a splash and dash for King, so he'll have enough fuel. Dan Kirby, the question mark remains how much fuel he's got left in his tank, but a 19-second gap, that is quite a margin to bridge with only 9.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, depending on what his pit lane time was. I think that's the thing for Alec King, is how was his pit lane time in conjunction with what gap he's got against Kirby now. He's got 18 seconds. We're expecting if Kirby does go in, he would be going in either this lap or probably one more, depending on what sort of fuel situation he's got. Pit lane entry on the right-hand side. So he's not going in this time around. So we'll need to keep an eye and see what he does on that one. But yeah, unfortunately there, we've also lost Carl Stroll, who has unfortunately retired from the race. And that is Stephen Miller in the wall. So Stephen Miller needs to be a little bit careful. But of course, is he still rocking his broken car? He is. So unfortunately, that's probably why a lot of incidents coming off Stephen Miller there. Still rocking and repping the broken machine as he's just about to be overtaken by Eduardo Benica.
And Benica going on his merry way. I mean, he's not looked challenged, has he, from anybody behind. JT Tammy, as it stands, is, 19 seconds back off of him. And then Eugene Mazur a further 22 seconds. So he's just not looked at any kind of risk. He's been consistent throughout. The only man who set a 1:27 in the GT3 car this evening. And he has just looked completely serene, totally comfortable, and fully deserves where he is at the moment. Stephen Miller has been in the wars, I think it's fair to say, but he is still ploughing on and is in P24 overall. He's P4 in class. He's ahead of the likes of Skrewell and Mudge, despite the fact that Skrewell is now out and Mudge is 12 laps down. There's always that little bit of pride, isn't there, in being able to finish a race like this.
There is, yeah. I wish Stephen would paint his car in a McDonald's livery. McDonald's drink carton. And that's purely because that Ferrari has got a straw sticking out of its roof. So I'd love to see that in a McDonald's Cup livery to see what it would look like. There was a car in AC that had that. Oh, a big hit in the wall there. There was a car in AC that had that. And, yeah, McDonald's livery with a straw coming out the top of that Ferrari.
Ooh, that was Alec King coming through, and he wasn't too worried about that straw, even though you can very much see it, can't you, on that car, with the straw coming out the top. I agree. I think it'd look great if it had some kind of maybe just like a Pepsi or a Coke. The amount of moments that we've seen, just little moments where we're like, that car's going in the wall and they just escape, has been too many to count, quite frankly, in this race. And that was just another one from the hypercar, sitting in behind Dan Kirby, who is leading this race by 16 seconds, albeit that gap is coming down, but you'd have to say it's not coming down fast enough for Alec King.
No, but it depends on if Kirby's got a pit. If he's got a pit, then it's going to come down fast enough. If he hasn't got a pit, well, he might be all right. And if he can hold on to it, that's going to be question mark. Is he going to be pulling into the right-hand side? Doesn't look like he is again. So Kirby going around once more with 6 minutes remaining.
Big race on at the back to see where Franco Alvarez can get to. I believe he's come into the pit lane once again, because he is back to being 4 laps down behind the likes of Ross Smith and Max Sunfenlap. So he is going to the end of this race. But, yes, he has. There we go. His first sector time's just come in. It's a 1 minute 36 first sector, which isn't ideal. Maybe some repairs on that car. So he is back down right near the back of the field. So not looking good for him, but he's still picking up points. And that's really what this kind of race is about. When there's only 31 cars and there's only 6 Hypercar Pro drivers in the race, just picking up those points are going to be important for the drivers that haven't, against the drivers that haven't turned up tonight. Yeah,
that's the thing. Any points gained over the people that are not here, you can have. Go and take it. You know, it doesn't matter if you're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 laps down. If you're going to get points and the people behind you aren't, well, that's a their problem, isn't it? That's not his problem. We've got Wayne Galvin in pit lane. That's released Jerry Chen to take the lead of the Hypercar AMS here. So Jerry doing a great job in the Hypercar AMS and has taken that lead so far.
Yeah, I mean, he looked relatively comfortable, and then we saw Wayne Galvin. We didn't really know what his strategy was, and then it emerged really that Jerry was in prime position. There were a couple of moments he had, a couple of wide moments and a couple of offs, but he's recovered wonderfully. And following up a good result last week with another, perfect result really here this week if he can get it to the end with only 4.5 minutes to go. Talking about getting it to the end, Dan Kirby, 15 seconds is a gap to Alec King. The only person who can lose it from now is Dan Kirby himself. Just needs to keep it calm and collected. Don't run out of fuel. Get the car to the finish line.
Yeah, that's got to be his main target, right? He's got to get it over the line. He's got to get it just finished in general. He's picking his places calmly. So that's great from Dan Kirby to see, as he's picking his places where he needs to get the job done. He knows he can get the job done. But if he gets it done somewhere else and gets stuck because he's going into 7, 8 and 9 here, he's going to have to try and make some rush overtakes, which could end up costing him his race altogether.
And at this stage of the race, that's just going to be absolutely catastrophic, isn't it? If you cost yourself a race where you've worked so hard, you've kind of just dodged the bullets that everyone else has gone from. Dan Kirby's winning this race because of the strategy as well. You don't want to throw out all of that good work, all of that hard work, clearly fuel saving through both stints, just to have some kind of incident in the closing couple of minutes. We've got 3 minutes left, so what's that, 1/20th of the race to go? I mean, this is the kind of the midnight phase of the race where you're just getting it to the end. You're just making sure that you don't make too many mistakes and maintain your position. The gaps out on track are wide. For class, I can see Ross Smith and Max Sunfenlap within 3/10. Apart from that, no one close to each other. Oliver Day and Sean Kelly as well, but that's not in the same class. So at this stage, just get it home. Don't make too many mistakes and don't do what this hypercar's been doing.
Yeah, don't do what Brian Hall's doing. You don't want to do it that way.
He nearly beat himself on the curb there, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He nearly got himself stuck.
Yeah, ideal.
Not ideal this late in the race.
It's like what Max Sweeney said about me on the Nürburgring 24-hour official stream. He said, Dareth Acker sitting on the fence as usual, dangling his legs, complaining that he can't get down. That's really what it's like to be riding the curb, because you genuinely can't move the car because the wheels are not connected to the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a horrible feeling, and it's like being stuck in the gravel, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's, you know, you're in the gravel and you're trying to go back and you're just shooting stones at yourself. You know what I mean? It's a pretty pointless act of trying to do that. It's like me taking a Formula Ford out and testing the new rain that we've got from another simulator, sticking it on the grass and having to do a 20-point wiggle turn just to try and get the car off the grass because it was that wet. As Ross Smith and Max Sunferlat were going side by side at one point there as well. So great, still battles happening down in the GT3s, and if I'm not mistaken, that is not Dan Kirby, that is Gilles Lalonde behind these guys. So yeah, just be careful, Gilles, you've had a bit of a rough one.
Yeah, but where Dan Kirby is next time round will be the white flag. So Dan Kirby, a lap and a half to go, and everybody in front of him, Gilles Lalonde included in that, may have 2 more to go when they reach the line. Depends if they are lapped by Dan Kirby before the end of the race. There is Lalonde, and there you go, he has been lapped, so he's got 1 more lap to go. No need to worry about another lap. I think he's caused himself enough harm this evening. Dan Kirby likely to put the GT3 here out of their misery, and they'll only have 1 more lap to complete. But we will see, with only 50 seconds on the clock, white flag out as he comes around the final couple of corners, and it really has been quite a controlled display. The only concern that I have him right now is that Alec King is 8 seconds behind, and if there is a lot of lifting needed by Daniel Kirby, could we possibly see the impossible happen? You've got to give them some hope. Maybe that something's going to happen to Dan Kirby. You're gonna look very silly now, though, if he has to massively lift off and he loses the lead.
He won't. It's Dan Kirby. The guy's not even from this planet. You know what I mean? He's not even from our solar system. He's another realm that's come to torment everyone in RF2 with his pace and his ability to jump in any car and be exceedingly quick. To even after 0 practice with all of these guys that have been practicing, there are 2 people that you sit back and you think, man, how do you do it? And Dan Kirby is one of the 2, and the other one is somebody I've known for a very long time. He just seems to be able to jump in any single car and be speedy in it. It's, yeah, sickening.
He's kept showing his class, hasn't he, all the way through the race. We were talking about at the start of the race, it was going to be a 2-stop for the Hypercars, and Dan Kirby has made a 1-stop work over this hour-long race. No one else in the Hypercars has been able to do that, and it's why Dan Kirby is going to come through the final couple of corners. We've said it race after race here in VWSC, but particularly in the NRAS series, but we'll say it again. Dan Kirby wins, this time at Detroit. Belle Isle, 1 hour ticked off for him, and in the Hypercars, in that Alpine that he has been testing, he wins the race. It'll be second for Alec King before we get a long way back to everybody else. The next leader to cross the line looks like it's going to be Jerry Chen, who's a little bit further back. Eduardo Benica, actually, I believe, will possibly be one of the last drivers to cross the line. So great to see Chen and Benica. I think they'll cross the line at a pretty similar time, but Chen and Benica, they have driven flawless races. Oh, well, flawless from Benica, a couple of instances for Jerry Chen, but clearly a class of the field in their own classes, and the same can be said for Alan Holden. But 4 relatively comfortable wins here tonight, James.
Yeah, they were, to be fair, and Holden did take it again in the GT3 AM, so it's a great job from him. Won last time out at Laguna Seca. He was ahead quite comfortably of William Schlichting there, so he was quite easily ahead of him. So, you know, great job from Alan Holden once more, and then Sean Kelly wrapping up the 3rd place. We'll just see if people are still running over the line. We think Eduardo Benica, nope, is in the pits. JT Tammy's in the pits as well. Let's see if we can bring you up the results here, and we'll see how they get on. But very interesting one.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, I think it's fair to say. Dan Kirby and Alec King, 1 and 2, they were 7 seconds apart. And then we look back at Jerry Chen, who was a long way back, albeit he wins his class and he sits on the podium overall. So a good evening, a good evening's work for Jerry Chen. Wayne Galvin, P4, Adrian Rice and Mike Bell, P5 and 6, but P3 and 4 in class. Norm Graf picks up P3 in his class, with Brian Hall, Lanny Hall, and Gilles Lalonde somehow, respectfully, making it inside the top 10. Eduardo Beninca, the leading GT3 car, finishes 11th with JT Tammy, Eugene Mazur, Michael Locke and Eric Jacobs, the top 5 in class and the top 15 in the race. Alan Holden winning your GT3 AM category, and he finishes ahead of, you'd say, the fastest man on track, pole sitter, and, and really all race long, fastest man, Franco Alvarez, who finishes in the end 17th overall. Vinicius Goncalves 18th, William Schlitting in 19th, in Italy, Max Sunderlap in 20th. He just edged out Ross Smith, who finished P21. Oliver Day, 22nd. But Sean Kelly and Steve Miller, 23rd and 24th. Matthew Overton, after that big old crash that he caused down at turn 3, finishes 25th. And then you get to Michael Mudge, who was the last classified finisher, albeit 16 laps down. But the non-finishers, there were a few of them. Carl Struwell, David Anderson, Tom Lasella, Paul Ibbotson, and sadly, Stacey Scott's P31 on the road. We had, I think, a little bit more of the carnage at the start, didn't we, James? But we still had quite a lot of action all the way through. But even though the classes were relatively easy at the front, we still had the likes of Franco Alvarez making their way through, making it interesting for us. As it always is, here at the VWSC NRAS series. I mean, we've had some great races so far, and a great calendar to look forward to as well. So we can only look forward to those as we work our way through this 2024 season. But it's lovely to see. I mean, we're seeing Dan Kirby on the podium and in the winner's circle again. And full credit to him for doing so. Jerry Chen as well. Good result. Eduardo Beninca again in the winner's circle. We're seeing some of the usual suspects, but they're there for a reason. They are consistent in every single race we do, in every kind of racetrack that we go to. We've had street tracks, we've had really quite open tracks at Daytona, and just more road courses that we have seen so far this season, the likes of Laguna Seca. And it's refreshing to see some of the names pop up every now and again, having a good result. But of course, seeing the names up there all the time just shows the class of some of these drivers, James.
Let's not forget they are all good drivers, and to tackle a street circuit, which is very, very difficult, you've got to give them credit, because they have just been absolutely amazing. So, fair play. It was he who made it through the traffic, really was the one that survived, I think. I think we can safely say that as well. Obviously, for Alvarez, it was a little bit of a technical issue, we're going to presume, that caused the problems. So, great racing, and we'll see what happens. But we've got your winner of the GT3 AMS sitting there, Dara, waiting for you, which I cannot move. That's annoying.
Neither can I. So we can see him sitting there. We might need the assistance of Ross Smith or Matthew Overton on this regard. We can fill slightly while we wait, and we can try and get this sorted. I mean, eventful races for both the people that we can see in the waiting room. Those at home, Alan Holden and Jerry Ched. both of the AM category winners, Hypercar for Jerry Chen, GT3 for Alan Holden. I mean, they had their ups and downs. There were the moments during the race. Holden had a couple of times where he was backwards in a wall. Jerry Chen as well, I think, went deep a few times. So they didn't have it easy in those categories, but still good results for them and picking up the points on the board, which is more than important when you'd say that we've had a bit of a reduced field when we saw the likes of 50 cars at Daytona.
Yeah, that's the thing. We've gone from that amount to this amount. So it is what it is here. We'll cope with these guys as well. I believe Matthew Overton is just moved Jerry Chen into the booth for us. So your Hypercar and winner, Dara, is there for you.
Hey guys.
Yeah, Jerry, I mean, another good result for you. Because you had a great race last time out at Laguna Seca, and a win here at Detroit. And you said Daytona at Detroit. I mean, eventful race. We were mentioning it for you. I mean, there's a couple of times you had a couple of incidents, but you must be very pleased with the P1 in the class and P3 overall.
Yeah. The traffic was so intense. There was every corner you came around the blind corner, there was a car. Didn't matter what class, there was just a car there. So yeah, traffic was heavy. I brushed the wall a little bit on like lap 4 or 5. I pushed it too hard on the cold tires and had bent the toe a little bit. It was only like 5 or 8 degrees, but yeah, had good fun racing with Wayne there. Just so much traffic. It was just about making sure you didn't die in traffic.
Yeah, we were talking about that being really the running theme of the race, is just trying to get through traffic and avoiding some of the collisions. I mean, you said every corner there was another GT3 car, even a hypercar. Was there ever a point where you kind of felt settled in the strategy and you were able to feel safe in your position? Because you led that race by quite a bit towards the end. Were you always on edge, or could you kind of lift off a bit, control it a little bit more at the end?
No, I was pretty on edge because I didn't know what strategy Wayne was on. It looked like he was trying to one stop, and so I didn't know if he had to do a second stop there at the splash at the end. So I was pushing hard through traffic. So yeah, it was pretty tense. And then I think I came up behind Eugene going to the second to last turn, and we came up and there was, I think, a hypercar parked right in the wall with the tail sticking out into the apex, and we were both just jammed on the brakes full stop to make sure we didn't like kill each other. But yeah, that was really intense at the end.
One last, a couple of last things. We go next time out, Watkins Glen. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, because that car should suit the Porsche again. It's a lot of medium and high speed, high downforce corners. I thought I was gonna lose this race because the tracks like this, like Long Beach and Detroit, doesn't really suit the 963 well. Because I could tell when I was behind Mac in that first stint, when we come up on that long straight, his Acura would just blow away. He would just pull so much speed on me on the straights that there was no way I could pass him even if I stayed with him. So I just but yeah, Watkins Glen should be fun for the Porsche, so I'm looking forward to it.
And before we let you go, anybody want to shout out on the streams before we let you go?
No, just Alec, my teammate, came in second. I think he was pushing hard to catch Kirby up front. I was looking at the splits there, but yeah, it was fun for everybody. It's really fun traffic, so good stuff.
Yeah, roll on roaded. Watkins Glen, road Atlanta. Watkins Glen, of course, next time out. Thanks, Jerry. Congratulations. We might speak to you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Who would you like next?
We have a pick of all three, don't we? Should we go we'll go with Alan Holden, because he was in there first.
I'll do that. I'll be right back.
A bit harsh leaving him in there for too long. We'll see as Matthew jumps across. Alan Holden now joining us in the commentary booth. And Alan, congratulations on a win. It was a pretty eventful race. I think it's fair to say there were a couple of times where you weren't facing the right direction in that race. I mean, was it eventful? Was it enjoyable? And you must be pleased with the win.
Yeah, it was a very insane race. There was a lot going on there. William was really putting pressure on me at the start there in that first stint, and I pulled away a lot in that second stint. So again, another track where you just kind of try and manage the traffic as much as you can. And I think I did as well as I could there.
Well, and you've come away with the win, of course, in the AM category. I mean, throughout the race, we did see lots of incidents with the hypercars. There were some drivers getting out of the way. Did you kind of get into a rhythm of where you could let the hypercars through? Did you kind of look for the areas where it was easier to maybe go slightly wide, let the hypercars through on the inside, or were you kind of just kind of waiting and being a bit more reactionary?
Yeah, I think at least early in the race, I think I was just trying to hit my line as much as I could, just so I could keep that distance with William. I had a bit of an incident with Norm Graff there. We had a slight touch coming into turn one there, but I think after that I was just trying to just keep it easy, let them through. Not really get into their battles too much. There was one point there with about 15 minutes to go. There was a line of cars, I think 6 or 7 in a row there. There was some I think there was some contact between Overton and another hypercar, and so at that point I was just trying to stay back, not get involved too much in those incidents.
Yeah, there was, as I'm sure we'll talk to Matthew in a bit, there was quite a bit of contact down at turn 3. You're right, you must have been at the back of that. I mean, looking forward, next race, Watkins Glen, we talked about it with Jerry. Is it a track you're looking forward to? Are you excited for it?
Well, unlike the past 3 tracks, it's a track I've raced at, so at least I come in with a little bit of experience on this track. I think I'm looking forward to it. It's a nice track. I may do the double in the other series as well on this track, so kind of looking forward to that weekend. Should be very fun. A very eventful weekend for me.
That's what we love to hear. And good luck to you. Before we let you go, anybody want to shout out on the screen?
I think once again, David Anderson. He's been very good. He's helped me out quite a bit. Yeah, I think so. All right. Guys, have a good day.
Yeah, well, thank you, Alan. Thank you for joining. Sorry for waiting a little bit longer in the waiting room, but I appreciate you joining. And congratulations, and all the best for the next race.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I've got Daniel waiting in the wings.
All right, you can drag him or Eduardo in. I'm not too fussed which way round you want to go.
We've got Daniel in.
Dan, you're back here again. You've been away a little bit as you've been testing out some cars. I think you still may have been testing out some cars today. You did the one stop there. I mean, we didn't really think it was going to be possible in the hypercars, but you made it work. I mean, was there much fuel saving you had to do towards the end?
Yeah, I was fuel saving the entire race. I thought it was just about possible when I was practicing earlier in the week. So it kind of was my game plan from the start this time. To just fuel save the entire race and see if I can make it work.
You did. I mean, it was a tight race really towards the end. I mean, maybe 2 or 3 more laps and you would have been had by Alec King. But also Franco Alvarez had some fantastic pace before he had, we think, some connection issues. So you didn't have it all your own way, but again through some of the traffic, I mean, you sat behind quite nicely. You worked your way through with Alec King over the start, and then you were ahead of Franco Alvarez and making your way through together. Did you kind of feel more comfortable working in a bit of a team, or was it easier to work on your own?
Probably would have been easier to just do it myself. I had thought about just letting him go a couple times, because it would be nice to not have him flying around in my mirrors the whole time while I'm trying to fuel save and stuff. But it didn't really feel like that good of an opportunity to let him go without losing too much time yet. So I was kind of just waiting it out, and then he pit anyway. So it kind of cleared that up.
Yeah, got out of your way a bit, didn't he? Not really causing you too much, but again, Dan, no surprise to see you here. Absolutely inhumane, your talent on this platform. Looking forward to Watkins Glen. I am sure you know that track like it's the back of your hand. Are you looking forward to that in this series?
Yeah, I would be. I'm not too sure if I'm gonna be able to attend or not, because I was planning to go to Laguna Seca to race my real car on the Friday. So I don't know if I want to try to race all night and then have like get there at like 1 a.m. or leave at like 3
I
a.m.
don't
to
think
get there. I'm not
anybody
too
would
sure.
begrudge you that, to be fair. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
if
we'll
that's the
see if I
case, all
go.
the best. Good luck with that. But before we let you go, anybody want to shout out on the stream?
Just everyone for the good racing. That was super fun.
Thanks, Dan. Gracious as ever, the most humble man in the series, winning again the Hypercar Pro category. And I think that's at least your third one, if not your fourth win of the season. So well done. And even if we don't speak to you next time, when you're off at Laguna Seca, I'm sure we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, guys.
Great. I'll bring you down to
Matthew. And that does leave us one more driver, one more winner for us to talk to, and that'll be Eduardo Berninca. And Eduardo, another comfortable win for you in this GT3 category. I mean, you didn't really look like it was out of sight. You led the race pretty much from start to finish. I mean, how does that feel? How comfortable was that for you?
Good evening, guys. I must say that this race was much more demanding. This kind of track is harder to keep on the rail. So especially the second part of the race, because me and JT didn't took tires. So the gap that I opened in the beginning helped me to keep the lead, but he started to follow me closer, keeping the distance in the last part of the race. So I have to drive quick and be concentrated to not do any mistakes. Otherwise, he gonna reach me and overtake in the end. I think he was around 10 seconds behind me the entire time, and that's it. That's the race. Very demanding, and at the end I was sweating a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you also managed to keep yourself out of trouble with the traffic. Was it difficult with the hypercars coming through and, of course, with the slower GT3s to manage, or did you find it relatively comfortable?
Yeah, sometimes I had a lot of difficulty with some hypercars, especially in the low corners. Some guys are trying to dive bomb me, but I was able to manage it. And sometimes I had to lift before the corners to avoid some kind of problems, and that's it.
Again, congratulations. I mean, fantastic win for you once again in this GT3 category. Looking forward to the next round, we're going to Watkins Glen, a track that I think you may have raced a little bit more than Detroit Belle Isle. Is it one you're looking forward to?
Definitely. I love the track, but I have to see because the Aston doesn't have the top speed. So probably it will be harder for me this time. I know that the Lexus and Porsche have a lot of top speed, so it will be interesting to see this race.
I have no doubt you'll be near the front of the field. Last thing before we let you go, anybody you want to shout out on the stream? Anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I like to thank both Eugene and William. We are working together. I have to congratulate Eugene this time because he did a podium in his home soil, and probably was one of the best races he did in the since he started in the sim race. So that's it. Congrats for the guys.
Well, thank you, Eduardo. Congratulations again, and I'm sure we'll speak to you again soon in this GT3 category. Well done.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.
There we have it, James. There were our four winners. I mean, they were four very gracious winners. None more gracious, of course, than Dan Kirby, who won once again. I mean, looking forward, as we've said, to Watkins Glen, looks like a track that's going to bring up some interesting racing and maybe change the running order in terms of the cars.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. There's it's a completely different style of track. We've been doing a lot of street tracks, and so to go to a classic like the Glen is going to be absolutely fabulous, and it will allow other cars to show some strengths.
Yeah, it definitely will. I do apologise. I didn't realise my mic was muted. I was sneezing at the time you were interviewing.
I forgot to unmute
myself.
Everybody has done that.
Yeah. I was
We've
sneezing.
all been there.
So I was like, why is Matt talking over me? And then I looked up and realised that I wasn't actually talking. I think the fact that we're going to see him on a racetrack now is going to be very, very interesting. I think overall, these guys, as I say, we've done some street circuits, we've done Laguna Seca, now we're here, now we're going to Watkins. I'm interested to see how they get on. Watkins should collectively be a little bit easier because, you know, it's a race circuit, it's not a street circuit as such, but they are still quite tight with the barriers, so we'll have to see how they get on that one.
Yeah, we will.
Yes.
I mean, it was great to hear Matthew become James there. As I was about to say, as Matthew started talking, James has forgotten to unmute his microphone.
I did. Thank you very much.
We know exactly what it's like. Before we let everybody go, though, Matthew, quick word from you. What happened at turn 3?
Do I really need to talk about that?
Yeah, well, actually, Matt, yeah, you did.
Decision in terms of how much tire and brake I thought I had. I was really working hard to get around Eric and thought I had better braking than him. I was certainly feeling it, but there was no feeling there as I just ran into the side of the hypercar. That was just a bad decision, and I'll be making my apologies to them a little later tonight.
Will the stewards be making their apologies to you, though, Matthew Overton? That would be the question.
I won't blame him if he takes it to the stewards, and because he was, I saw him in the back of the track. I waited a while, but I saw him at the back of my mirrors, and he was in the middle of the track for quite a while. So I've got to find out who that is and talk to him. And if it's perfectly right, stewards should hammer me for that. It was a bad decision. I won't be able to serve the penalty at the Glen. I'm going to have to do it at Moffport because I'm going to be in the western part of the country on the 27th of June for real. So I'll be missing that race, which I'm very, very sorry about. I love Watkins Glen. It's only about 5 hours from where I live, and it's a super place to be.
Well, you're closer to Watkins Glen than me and James, that's for sure. We're a little bit further away with an ocean between us, but we'd love to see it. It'd be fantastic if we saw one of these races where all of a sudden it was in the UK and me and James would be like, oh, we know that. And all of the drivers are having to race at Brands, for example. Could you imagine, James, EWSC NARS at Brands Hatch?
Oh, my word.
Yeah, I'd rather put them at Thruxton. That would just be insane.
Oh, my word, yes. Necessary.
Fastest racetrack in the UK, Thruxton. Put them there. There you go, boys. Crack on. See how you get on and see if you can survive.
And I'm getting all sorts of stick for having them at VIR at Virginia, so I can just imagine what would be the comments if I took them to Thruxton.
That would be funny.
That's I think a conversation I think is going to have to be had. Cadwell Park, Thruxton, Snetterton, Brands Hatch as a series in the VWSC. These hypercars and these GT3s, it'd be absolutely fantastic. But that's a conversation for another day, as are the conversations about what cars they're going to be having for the coming seasons here in VWSC, exactly. As James continually tries to get the answers out of Ross Smith. But we will wrap it up there here from Detroit. It's been a great hour's worth of racing with 4 very deserving winners here around Belle Isle. Next time, as we've said, we'll be at the Glen in 5 weeks' time. Who will come out on top there? It's going to be an interesting race for sure in the middle of summer. Join us there when we go racing. But for now, we thank everyone who's watched, everyone who's been putting some little comments into the chat, and we will see you next time where the VWSC NARS series returns from the Glen in 5 weeks' time.